Good morning. Today is Wednesday. Today we are learning the um, 21st Perek of Shabbos, Perek Chaf Aleph. It's only three Mishnayos today. It's a short Perek. And that's what it is. We do a Perek a day. We know the rules. Echad Amarbet, Echad Amamit, Rakshi Chavon Libel, Levish Bashamayim. Whether it's a bit long or small, we do one Perek a day. It's all for to get closer to Hakadosh Baruch Hu and to be lamed to learn and teach us Torah. Okay. Today's share is sponsored by Nishmas Aaron Nachum and Simcha Cohen, Yeshua Morcha Ben Shepsel, Bracha Sarva Shmuel Leib, and B'yam Moshe Ben Yosef Ben Hashem will have an aliyah, and Refuah Shalem for Ada Sarva Sleach Chana Pesel Bas Yenta, Yisrael Ben Rachalea, Rachel Bas Pesel Zelda, Aram Yisach Ben Risha, and Chaya Bas Doba Bela, Refuah Shalema, the Karov Mamish. It's also a special shout out to our sponsor for the week, the Everest Equity Group, providing mortgages at great rates. If you're in the market for a mortgage, please reach out to them either through their website or through me. You contact me and I'll give you their number if you're interested. Okay, Shefer Bracha Vatzlach and all their endeavors. Perek Chaf Aleph Mishnah Aleph. This is Perek Notel. Notel. Notel Adam Espinova Evan Biyad. This chapter deals with the exceptions to the Isser of muktza. So a person may hold his son who has a stone in his hand if the son desires to be held by his father. The kalkala Evan Bisocha. A person may move a basket with a stone inside it. If the stone is needed to fill a hole in the basket, and is therefore considered to be part of the basket. You have a basket that has a hole. You put the stone in there to close up the hole. I'm not exactly sure how that really worked. I guess it was in there securely. Therefore, it's considered part of the basket and it's not muktza. Okay, now we're talking about truma tameya, which is muktza, because not even a kohen can eat it. Kohen can eat truma, but he cannot eat truma tameya. So metal to then truma tameya imatahora v'imachulin. Or we may move truma that is tamei together in the same basket with truma that's tahor, or with chulin, because the truma that is tamei, which is also to be eaten, is considered batal in respect to the other food which may be eaten. It happens to be in the basket, it's not a big deal. Now, what about meduma? As you remember from Orla and from Zerayim, the meduma is a mixture of truma and chulin, which is not allowed to happen. It's aser. Meduma may not be eaten unless the amount of chulin in it is at least 100 times more than the truma. You need 100 to 1 in order to be mevato the truma in that mixture. In addition, the portion that corresponds to the amount of truma in the mixture must be removed in order to make the mixture mutter. Therefore, the Mishnah discusses removing the truma portion on Shabbos. So Yehuda says, "Af ma'alin es meduma be'echad chameya." We may remove the truma portion. Remember, it is 100 portions of chulin, 1 portion of truma. You need to remove 1 portion for the truma. So in order to move out the rest of it. So you can remove that truma portion of a mixture. It was 1 part of truma got mixed together with 100 parts of chulin. Although removing the truma from tevel, that's porous that was not ma'aser yet, and Shabbos is aser, removing the truma portion from meduma is mutter to do on Shabbos. Why? Well, number one, you don't need to physically remove it. You just need to mentally separate the truma portion that they designated, like in this section of the basket, is what the truma portion is. But since Yehuda holds that since one is allowed to eat from the mixture without physically removing the required portion, then its physical removal on Shabbos is not a an is a repair. You know, in other words, since you don't have to physically remove it, therefore removing it physically is not us. So this would also apply to separating portions from tevel, since tevel can also be made mutter through mental designation as well. But the Chachamim treated the repairing or the fixing up of tevel more strictly, because tevel was never mutter to begin with. You can't eat tevel. Whereas maduma is a mixture of two foods, truma and chulin, both of which were once permitted, and therefore it's more of a kula. But tevel, no one ever matter tevel, so therefore that becomes more machmir. Mishnah Beis, ha'evin shal pi hachavis. If a stone is on top of a barrel and one needs to move the stone to take wine from the barrel, mata al sida felis. He may tilt the barrel on its side so that the stone falls off, but he may not lift the entire barrel to shake off the stone. If the barrel was between other barrels and he is afraid that the stone will damage the other barrels when it falls off, he may lift the barrel, move it to a safe area, and then tilt it on its side so that the stone falls off. If money was left on a pillow and one needs to use the pillow, nowhere as hakar v'hei nofas. He may shake the pillow so that the money falls off. Okay. Another Mishnah mentions another case where someone who wants to remove something undesirable from a pillow. If there was a filth on a pillow, it was dirty. One may wipe it off with a rag or a shmata, but one may not rinse it off with water, because the water will soak into the fabric and wash it, which is the malacha of washing. Malabin, that's a problem. However, if the pillow was made of leather, we may pour water over the filth until it's removed, because the water does not soak into leather. Would that be the same case with a pleather, or like the fake stuff, not just leather itself? Maybe not. I'm not sure. It seemed like it. Man, Mishnah Gimel, the last one for today. It says only three Mishnahs today. This is 1, 2, 3. We're done. Mishnah Beis Shammai says, "Makbiyam min hashulchan asamos uklipin." We may lift the bones and shells on the table by hand if they are fit for animal food, because animal food is not muktza on Shabbos. That's assuming you also have an animal. If you have an animal, that might be a problem. Beis Hillel, although he says that the Bartanura says that bones and shells that even animals do not eat are muktza and may not be moved. Beis Hillel says, no tel es hatavla kula chumanara. You can lift the entire board and shake it so that the bones and shells fall off, but one may not lift them by hand, since they did not become animal food until Shabbos, they are nolad, which is a form of muktza. So therefore, if you're saying you could take the tabletop itself, maybe a plate or maybe some sort of serving dish, and then separate it, and then throw the stuff in the garbage can. You can't actually pick it up by hand. And so at the beginning of Shabbos, the bones were part of the meat to which they were attached, and the shells were part of the produce that they encased. As such, they were considered human food. Only when the meat and the produce were removed did the bones and shell become animal food. Since this animal food came into existence on Shabbos, it is muktza under the category of nolad. The Mishnah prohibits lifting the bones and shells by hand directly. It is permitted to remove them indirectly by lifting up the board, which is not muktza and shaking them off. as we already discussed. The Gemara actually brings down a, a tradition that Beis Hillel rules more leniently with respect to muktza than Beis Shammai does. Therefore, our Gemara asserts that the two names in our Mishnah have been incorrectly switched. In fact, it is Beis Hillel who allows lifting the bones and shells from the table, and it's Beis Shammai who require lifting the board and shaking them off. This is according to the Bartanura. Nevertheless, the Mishnah says what we said before. Okay. Ma'avirim b'lefnei hashulchan. We may also remove these items from the table by hand. Berurim, pachos mikazayis, v'seyer shel afunin, v'seyer shel adashim. Pieces of bread, even if they are smaller than an owl's volume, the pods of chickpeas, and the pods of lentils. Even though they're unfit for human consumption, they are not muktza, because they are animal food. Svug, regarding using a wet sponge to clear a table on Shabbos. Im yeshlo base achiza mekanchem. If it has a leather handle, im yeshlo or not od, or base achiza mekanchem. If it has a leather handle, we may wipe the table with it. But if it does not have a leather handle, we may not wipe the table with it because the water will certainly be squeezed out of it, and one will therefore perform the malacha of a malab washing with the sponge, and that's the problem. And finally, the Chachamim say, "Bein kach, bein kach, nita b'Shabbos." Either way, whether it has a leather handle or not, it may be moved on Shabbos because it is a utensil, and it is not, but it's not able to become tamei, even though it is a utensil. Why? Tumah can be transmitted to people, food, and kalim. However, even items in the category of kalim cannot become tamei unless they're made of wood, sackcloth, metal, earthenware, or leather, or they are garments made of wool, linen, and the like. Since the sponge is not any of these things, it is not able to become tamei, even if it has a leather handle. A sponge is not a utensil because it is the main object that counts, being the sponge, and not the secondary part like the handle. Okay, see you tomorrow for chapter Perek Chaf Beis. Have a wonderful day.